culture is, like I said, signal strength. The signal strength of these people create the culture, whether it's a weak signal or a strong signal. All those signals together is your culture.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Ray Allen.
On this week's episode of the Marketing Expedition Podcast, I get to speak with Allyns Melendez, and she has 25 years of human resources and business management experience. She's got a master's in business administration from Temple University, Fox School of Business, a bachelor's degree in business and HR management from Kaplan University, is a certified analyst of 2 workplace behavior platforms, is certified in human resources studies from Cornell's ILR School, a certified leadership coach, and she's completed courses in leadership strategies from Harvard Business School and neuroscience for business at MIT. She's really smart. Anyway, you're in for a treat here. But with a passion for human capital and business strategy, she helps businesses understand the necessary tactics that will help develop, train, educate, and motivate their employees. Allyns currently serves as CEO at HR Transformed and COO at a national public relations firm, and is a professor of continuing education for Temple University. And she is fluent in English and Spanish and is conversational in Polish. Allyns lives in Hudson Valley, New York with her husband and 3 children. And on her free time, as if she has free time, right? She enjoys cycling, Pilates, dance, cooking, and rock climbing with her kids. And we're going to talk all about the different challenges and things that are associated with people and behaviors and how to shift them in our leadership styles in the companies that we work with. And I promise we'll also talk a little bit more about marketing and how that all works together because she works with agencies. So really, this is a treat for us to have Allyns on the show. But first, it's time for the Marketing Essentials moment, the basics that you need to help you continue to build your brand and your bottom line. Okay, let's expand upon last episode's topic of when to be ready to hire an agency and what to look for in an agency. I think I have more to tell you, more to say, more things to follow up on, because it's a very valid topic of conversation to know when you're ready to hire an agency. Maybe you've been doing all the things on your own. You're trying to manage and juggle and, be the entrepreneur, be the person that does it all. But maybe you're ready to scale up and hire an agency to help you grow and scale and get to the next level of your business. Maybe you just have a team of 2 people in your marketing department and you need to augment that with a team to help with various different areas of expertise, right? So some of the things to help prepare you when it's time for you to hire that agency, think about the different questions you can ask of that agency that you're looking to hire. Some things that they can give you that will indicate whether or not they're going to be a good fit, because it's just as important for us as agencies to make sure that the new client that's coming to us is going to be a good fit for us too. So kind of being able to understand and discover the fit of the agency. And whether you talk to several or you just fall in love with one, it doesn't matter. You can fall in love with Peppershock anytime. I'd be happy with that. But asking the right questions. What kind of industries has that agency worked with previously? Is it in alignment with something that maybe you do now? Maybe they've worked with maybe a competitor of yours in a different region before, or maybe they've worked with another company that's similar to yours that has similar target audiences that maybe they're not competitive, but maybe there's a strategic alliance there. But asking that question, what kind of industries have they served? What kind of examples of campaigns have they done before? Looking at their past work, looking at samples and examples of things that they've done before, and asking how do they measure the results of their campaign? Do they provide reports? Do they work with you on a regular basis? Do they do the marketing audits on a consistent basis so that we can always understand what to stop, start, keep, or tweak? What is it that they do to know that they're doing a good job for you and that you feel comfortable with an ongoing relationship with them because they are looking at KPIs? I always like to say kept promise indicators or key performance indicators, if you will, but are they helping you reach your goals? And will they help you reach your goals? And what are your goals? And those types of things. Do the employees at the agency have any kind of specialties that could really help elevate your area of focus and where you want to target your audience and messaging. And then, of course, asking them about how their pricing is structured. There's lots of different ways that agencies will structure pricing. Either it's a retainer, a monthly retainer, reoccurring retainer fee. Maybe it's based on performance. And sometimes we build in a little bit of both, because if we do reach the goals, then we want you to invest more in marketing. So then we're going to level it up every time. We're going to spend a little bit more. We're going to look at customer acquisition costs. And then the idea is to reduce the amount of money you're spending to acquire the new customer, but increase the lifetime value of that customer. If those goals are happening, then what can you do to then reinvest in your marketing in a way that's going to be beneficial and impactful? Look at those questions. Look at what you can do. So what industries have you worked in before if you're asking the agency? What examples do you have of your past work? How do you measure the results of your campaigns? Do your employees have any specialties or certificates or things that are of importance for what we want to accomplish? And how is your pricing structured? Then thinking about budgeting and how you're going to follow through with that, looking at how you can work together to make sure that you're on track on a regular, ongoing basis. Does the agency keep a scorecard with you? Are you willing to give up that information with your agency so that we all know that we're on the same page and that we're accomplishing things and your revenue is growing? Are you trusting them enough to be able to do that so that you feel comfortable with being able to do that? Those are really important things. And then reporting. What do they do? How do they report? How often do they report? What metrics and data does the agency look at on a regular basis? And how often do you want those reports from that agency? And then what kinds of things are they going to report on? Whether it's campaign revenue, number of conversions, maybe it's click-through rates, maybe it's the quality or quantity or, sentiment scoring, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to utilize this product or service, and those types of things. And then ultimately, what's the return on investment that we're going to get by working and hiring this agency? And sometimes it takes a longer time to get that ROI, especially if we have to do initial injection to get things started. If it's a one-time cost on getting your website set up or, just a number of things that we're doing that are sort of cost anomalies that aren't your regular ongoing marketing maintenance, but thinking about what is that going to be? How are you going to build the brand? And then ultimately your bottom line. So those are some things to think about as you continue to go through the process of getting ready to hire your agency or your next agency. Maybe you have an agency and you're not happy with them. Ask yourself why. What is it about them that you're not liking? Bring that up with the new potential agency. Look at what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they answer your questions, and how they deliver on the results and promises that they make, right? So thinking about those types of things can really help you understand what it takes to have an agency partner and a collaborative effort, if you will, to help you then grow your business. So with that, let's get into the interview and we'll talk some more again. Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen. I'm the CEO and president of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And I have, see, I just was going to butcher your name again, but it's Allyns Melendez. See, I did it. I was trying not to. Say your name for me.
Allyns Melendez.
Okay. Allyns, thank you so much. I was trying so hard not to butcher it, but you know what? We just had this conversation about names. So thank you so much, Allyns. All right. So welcome to the show. You are an HR expert. You've had your own company and you work a lot with other PR and marketing agencies. And I can't wait to share what you have to share today. So why don't we kind of dig into your background just a little bit? What were you doing before you started your company? And what got you on this path?
So before I started my company, I was at a PR firm, which I'm still working with. So I've been at this PR firm for 16 years, almost 16 years now. And I've been their COO, their chief operating officer, for about 12 of those 16 years. So what I was doing was basically running the firm, a $10+ million firm from start to finish. So I oversee HR, finance, IT, and operations. And so when I started my company, I really wanted to focus on HR and how the HR practices, the people operations, and how we interact with our employees impacts the growth of that organization, mostly the agencies that I work with.
So Allyns, because you still work with the company that you were, and now you're working on your own company.
Yes.
So what was the ultimate decision that made you decide to I got to do this to help others? Tell me about that.
So that's exactly it. I have done some work on thinking about what is my massive transformative purpose? Why am I here? What really jacks me? And what do I want to spend my days doing? And HR is something that's been at the core of me since I can remember. I used to be in daycare. I mean, we're talking 3-4 years old. And I remember being empathetic and highlighting things that the teachers were saying and working with the students. And I was this little leader. I would read my sort of performance metrics that they would send home with my mom. And it was, Allyns has got leadership capabilities. She helps the students with this. And all when I couldn't even speak English yet, because I had only spoke Spanish growing up, born and raised in the US, but only spoke Spanish. So I had this massive transformative purpose that I developed on helping people in the area of HR, helping people in general, but in the area of HR. I feel like HR has become an expectation of just transactional interactions. Give me my benefits, give me my paycheck, help me with this issue. And it doesn't go deeper than that on teach me how to be who I'm supposed to be in this organization. And also what I learn here in this organization is going to translate into my personal life and change the way that I see relationships with my loved ones or with my family members or friends or family. It really is important for me to make an impact and a difference on people's lives, not just from the transactional standpoint, but from the human standpoint.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Relationships are key. And you're right. It doesn't need to be just transactional. From a marketing perspective, I love to say that culture and branding really go together, right? Branding happens from the inside out, and then it can protrude outwardly. And it's all about the people that work at an organization and how they interact with each other. What are some things that you think about when you first start working with a new agency or a PR company or, any company that you work with? What are some first things that you look at or kind of dig into when you first want to start working with somebody?
I start meeting the people. Yeah. That is the first thing that I want to do. And the reason why is because I want to find out where the signal strengths are coming from. And what I mean by signal strength, it's who is having the most impact on the staff, whether it be from their title, their position, or how long they've been with the company. But I'm also looking at whose voice is the loudest. And we're not talking volume. We're talking what they're saying. Is that resonating with the staff? Are they following? Are they listening? Are they tracking? And so I identify, who is this person in the organization? How do they fit in? And what their signal strength is. And to me, that tells a big story about how the culture runs and whether or not they can scale based on who has the strongest signal strength. If the person with the strongest signal strength is someone who is upset with the company, then what do you think the culture is going to be like? They're now permeating their anger or their resentment towards the company to other people because their strength is so loud or has a farther reach. If the person with the strongest signal strength is extremely upbeat and positive and really happy and motivated, you're going to see the people around them be permeated with this same sort of motivation and happiness. So that is usually the first step that I take. And then we kind of get into all right, what kind of other HR help do you need? We need to set up onboarding or offboarding or, the day-to-day benefits, tracking, payroll. Then we get into that stuff. But I really like to understand what is this company from the perception of staff and also perception of leadership.
And you're right. It doesn't necessarily matter what title they have. It's just the influence that they have over other people and what they say and how they say it.
Right.
And you're right. If you've got somebody that's saying things that are not so positive and, whiny and complainy, right? BMWs, BMWs are bitch moaning and whining, right? We don't like that. We don't want that, right?
Right. And if we do, I am one of those people that I'm like, get me in there. I want to know what they're saying. I want to go deal with this.
Why?
Business owners are typically like, I don't want to know. I don't want to deal with it. I just want to focus on bringing in business or dealing with the clients. And I understand that, right? I run a business. Like, I understand that.
Totally.
At the same time, those things that you ignore are going to sort of, pile up and pile up. And before you know it, you're spending weeks on those issues rather than focusing on your business. So we've got to be very intentional in an organization to make sure that we are figuring out where the signal strength is. And also, who's listening, how are they responding, and whether or not it's on a positive front or if it's on a negative front. We really need to figure out how to help the company move forward to meet the goals, right? Like, what are you in business for? To deal with people problems? Or are you there to do something that you wanted to do, whether it's a marketing firm or a PR firm or whatever it is? You can't focus on that unless the people are there, right? That's that intellect that you need to be really tapped into your vision as a business owner.
Yeah. Well, and I can relate to that so much because as a business owner, sometimes you just work and work so hard to develop people, and sometimes they're just not ever going to get there to where you want them to be. And then it becomes this cyclical pattern of just, okay, I need to, like you said, deal with it as opposed to like want to. And then the employee too is in that situation where it's like, I got to show up to work today. I don't want to be there. I'm just going to check the clock and wait till it gets to 5 o'clock and then I'm out, and they check out and they're not like engaging and developing and furthering their own skills, right? I've been through that. I've been doing this for 20 years and I get that. Like, there are just some people that are not wired that way, right? And so kind of identifying that and almost to a transformational moment where you sort of help either the employee or the employer let go, right?
Right. And it really does have to do with how clear are you from the start? So, I've been in many different types of companies over the past 27 years. Yeah. And I would say that agency by far is my favorite. It can be more difficult than how some of the other corporate organizations operate, the ones that I work with. I get
100%. Sorry to interrupt you, but because it's a bunch of creative people who want to be very creative and, forget the rest.
Yeah. And when you're in an environment that is creative, there's a level of persuasion that's there, right? Like, if you're in PR, you're persuading the media if it's earned media, or there's creative ideas that need to be presented to a client, and people are getting creative in that process. So there's a lot of emotion around that, whether it be sense of urgency or how they show up or how passionate they feel or seem about an idea or something. So when there is a lack of communication from the standpoint of whether or not someone is performing, I think that's a big point of contention when it's time to make a decision to let somebody go. I'm a big fan of clear, concise conversations delivered in a way, like I mentioned, that allows someone's listening to stay open rather than shut them down. So, for example, if I am a very communicative, lively, energetic, social being, I value relationship and conversation. And I might want to have a two-way conversation about my performance if there's any indication that I'm not performing. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to look to see, why am I not following this? Can we talk about this a little bit more? I'm going to want to engage in a conversation. If the other person who's talking to me is not a social person or a highly communicative person, they're more direct, to the point, maybe lack some detail, maybe wants to just be in the big picture, might say to me, "You're not performing. You've got 30 days to fix it." And I'm like, well, what is it? Tell me a little bit more. Give me some examples. When did I meet it? Let me try to emulate those behaviors. They might shut down because that's not their communication style. So I encourage business owners to think about, how have I communicated in the past? Did it resonate with the person so that they're clearly in the know of what needed to shift that didn't shift? So that's one. Once you figure out I'm being clear, There's just documentation. It's very simple. Put it in an email. Hey, we had a conversation today about X, Y, and Z. We agreed to X, Y, and Z. Maybe it gets to that point where it's super serious and someone says, you've got 30 days to turn this around, or we're going to have a conversation about potentially like termination or you not continuing to work here. And I also want to highlight that many different agencies operate differently. They have a different sort of threshold of how many types of these conversations they're going to want to have. And some companies don't have them, one, to avoid them, but also create that shock factor when someone is finally terminated. So the cadence and sort of the way you should go about doing it is having clear conversations, documenting them, giving them a timeline, being clear about what these deliverables are, and finding that path forward. Because something so intangible, like I want to see a sense of urgency. What does that really mean? It can mean different things to different people. To me, it means step up the kind of energy, step up the, I'll jump right on that. Whether it means my voice gives it away or my actions give it away or both. So we need to be very clear with people on what this performance expectation is, that so that before you get to that place of we need to handle this, they're going to get terminated, you've checked off these sort of boxes of I've been clear, I've documented, they know what they needed to do, and it's not a surprise. Like you have no idea how terrible it would feel for someone to feel like, I thought I was doing a great job and now you're letting me go. I have no idea what's happening here. There'd be no question if you worked with me on whether or not you were clear about something. And listen, there will always be a shocking conversation. That first conversation is always shocking, but it shouldn't be the last conversation that's shocking, right? It shouldn't just be that termination conversation. There should have been some indication before.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that after, having to had to hire and fire employees for the last 20 years. I mean, much prefer hiring than I do firing.
Of course, yeah.
But I want to ask you, and maybe other people listening, other entrepreneurs, whether you're an agency owner or not, I want to know what compels people who, maybe they were leading up to that point where they knew that they were going to be fired because, or they, they needed to kind of, we've talked through every possible way to get them elevated and getting into a point where, they just would perform where you needed them to perform. And they just at some point couldn't get there. And so, they see the writing on the wall, like they know, they quit, and then they write a scathing review anonymously, but it's them because it's the only person that was, let go at the time. How do you feel about these review sites that are anonymous, that are just giving the previous kind of employees these platforms to just, I don't know, and it just, it's kind of the anonymity part, but also they can hide behind a keyboard. They can say things that are not necessarily truthful, like they stretch the truth, right? And they say all these mean things. Right. And then you try to go and hire somebody new, and then they see these awful, reviews. I want to know, has anyone you ever worked with dealt with this before? And I'll just be honest, transparent 100%. Like, we've had to deal with that. And, I have lots of wonderful, positive, amazing reviews, but there's always those ones that are just like, what do you do? How do you like coach somebody on that,
So there's several steps that you can take. I mean, you're not always going to eliminate someone's kind of bad review or their ability to create that bad review. It's like the restaurant, right? Like, was there really a fly in your soup? I mean, it looks like a really nice place. Do they have that many flies? You sort of have to think about it from the reader's perspective. This has an ounce of truth to this person, whether it's a little bit more elaborate than what really happened, or maybe just a flat out lie. The reader wouldn't know that. I do think that Glassdoor readers themselves know that there is an ounce of truth and a lot of ounces of non-truth sometimes, because people do leave very upset and angry and want to have a platform to do that.
That they, didn't get to keep the job that they thought that they wanted. And now they're, lashing out in a not a very positive way.
Right. And not every firm, not every agency fits that person either. Right. Like, and I like to use the word integration versus fit. But when they determine this company is not a good fit for me because of the way they've done X, Y, and Z, that's great. And so you kind of exit to do that. Some things that you can do before you get to the place of termination is allow people a platform internally where they can express themselves. So I like to do these anonymous virtual suggestion boxes in companies, and it allows the current employees to submit questions, comments, concerns, and I encourage the company to then publicly answer them within, not publicly like out in the universe, but publicly within the organization, answer it. So for example, if somebody asked a question of, hey, can we get more vacation time? Really want to, have more time off because we work so hard. If the company's willing to add some more, then they would say, thanks for your suggestion. We took it into account and we are actually adding more, or we decided to go unlimited. Or if they ask for something and the company says no, at least there's communication. And that's the point. So allowing employees a platform before they leave to express concerns is really, really, from my point of view, very important. Again, that platform is there and the answers are shared where other people call you up and say, oh my gosh, that was something I was also thinking about. Let me give you my 2 cents. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such valuable information. As opposed to ignoring everything, not addressing what's going on in the staff, and then for it to get on Glassdoor, like it does eliminate some of that. I can't say it does all of it. The other thing is absolutely doing an exit interview and finding out if there were any unresolved issues that the company doesn't know about. And here's an important point I want to make. Anyone who is in a management position has an obligation to take information that's shared by an employee and move it up the ladder or take it to the people who need to solve that issue. Notice to a manager is notice to the company. And so I urge companies to train their managers to understand what their obligations are in moving that information up that ladder. So for example, if an employee says, I suffer from a mental illness, we'll give it a label, maybe anxiety or something else. If they, and let's say that's in response to a conversation around their performance, it's really important for that manager to say, wow, this is a potential HR situation. Notice to me is notice to the company. I'm going to go take it to the HR person or to the owner, whoever else is in charge to help figure this out. And if they can't figure it out, then they might need to call an HR person. However, they need to be trained in recognizing that there is some sort of level of supervision, level of obligation to the organization to move information along so that someone isn't ignored and someone doesn't have these unresolved issues that will really compel someone to say, to cry out from the mountaintops, I've been treated unfairly. So put these things in place and see what you get. I love the issues because I'm like, let's solve, let's figure it out. Yeah. But it's really up to those business owners and that leadership members to follow through and solve and act on things that is communication, communication heavy. People can understand it. And if they can't share more beyond what they can share, say that too. Like, this is all the information I can give. And I'll come back with more if I have it. But just, be vulnerable, be honest, and hold yourselves accountable as business owners. I know it's tough. I know it's time consuming. I know it doesn't make you happy. It does not move the needle for you, but it does move the needle because your people are going to be more invested. They're going to be more engaged. They're going to create better work and they're going to be happy.
Right. Yeah. No, I can absolutely relate to that. And, sometimes you're right, though, not everybody is a good integrated fit. And you have to own up to that because you made the hiring decision, or maybe not, or maybe somebody else did. And then you were kind of embedded into that or, kind of happened. But
And now a message about one of our sponsors, Nadine West, which is awesome, affordable outfits that are delivered to your doorstep each month or however often you want it delivered. And each month features surprising new outfits that consist of items perfectly styled just for you. And you only keep what you love and then send the rest back free of charge. I absolutely love it. The things that they send me, I often keep more than not. And so for our listeners, if you sign up today using my link, you'll get $10 credit and free shipping on your first order. So go to peppershock.com/offers and sign up for Nadine West and get your $10 credit. I know you're going to love what Nadine West sends to you. I even get a personal message from her asking how everything's going. Anyway, so go to peppershock.com/offers and sign up for Nadine West.
Let's also talk about retention, because I know this day and age, people are struggling with keeping long-term employees, or maybe they've got them for a little bit and then they just turn over and turn over and turn over. What are some maybe kind of thoughts on how do you keep your people retained and on an ongoing basis?
Okay. I've got several thoughts here for you.
I figured you would.
So one is kind of doing some back-end homework. Look at your turnover. And if you don't do turnover reports, you probably, it's a good idea to kind of look at who's leaving the organization. Is there a trend in titles? Is there a trend in tenure? Is there a trend under a particular manager? Is there a trend in a department? See what that data is, because then you could use that as predictive analytics. So from the people who've left, you can learn things about the people that are currently there. So I've learned before, there's like a sweet spot of the number of years where someone would stay and then would show sort of exit activity, whether they were taking time off to interview or, they sort of felt disengaged in their work, et cetera. Some of the behaviors match. So I would say the sweet spot at the time that I did this, an example I'm thinking about was about 2.5 years with an organization. I would see a lot of exit activity with one particular title. So what I did was I targeted individual conversations with that group, that subset of people from the data that I had gathered from the turnover report. And I would ask them, what keeps you here? What gets you up in the morning? What's your favorite part of this job? If you could shift something or change something, what would it be? Where do you see yourself going here? And for the people that I knew were not happy at an organization, I would ask them, doesn't seem like you're happy. Here's why I'm saying that. Here's some of the things I've been looking at or I've been noticing. And then I'd say, am I on target here or am I completely off base? Give myself some wiggle room and then have these one-on-one conversations to find out, is what I'm doing on the right track? The other thing, so that's using predictive analytics in HR, to figure out like targeting certain kind of groups of people and just asking them these questions to see if there are potential for turnover. The other thing is doing an annual engagement survey. I mean, so simple, so easy. 3 questions. What do you like most about working here? What is something that we can shift or change that would make working here even better? And obviously we would have to think about what's reasonable, right? And the third is, what else do you want me to know? So as a business owner or as a senior leadership member or as an HR department, those are the 3 most valuable questions that you can ask. And then compile the data. And listen, AI is so amazing now. You can kind of summarize data, figure out the trends. You don't have to sit there and pour over 45 pages of work, which is what we used to do. But you can get all this data and find out where are my opportunities. And I've got to tell you, over the past couple of years, having my HR company, getting involved with engagement surveys, I've seen a lot of things happen. So once the engagement surveys are done, there is a communication plan that's put in place. How are you communicating the results to the staff? What are you committing to as a result of this? You can commit to continuing to do these top 5 things that everybody said you do amazing as a company, or even enhancing them. And then these top 5 things that aren't so great, what are you going to do about it? You could say, I can't give you 15 more mental health days a year. But what can you do? Because there's an ask in there. Don't just ignore it. There's an ask. So I think that if you tap into your team members, retention will be easier. And again, time consuming, doesn't move the needle in terms of client work or bringing in revenue, but it keeps your costs down from having to replace people and also fixes what could be broken in your culture. And I've seen companies do sort of a quarterly communication cadence. Here's what we discovered out of top 5, and then here are the next 5. And guess what? A couple of employees were shouted out as amazing leaders here, or even amazing coworkers. And then guess what? Next year, when you do the engagement survey, much more data, because they know you're doing something about it. And they're going to want to be there for that journey. And the last thing I want to say is that there could be some really big shakeups based on engagement survey feedback. And it usually is very difficult to deal with, probably potentially shifting in the sense that people might leave because they don't like some of the decisions being made. However, if it's in alignment with where you want your company to go or how you want your people to be, then it is worth it. And you talk to some of my clients who have gone through those pains, and they will tell you it was painful and it was worth it because we figured out the company we wanted to be. So for example, if you're an agency and your people have to work on weekends, but you never told them that they did, and now you don't have any which way of like making them happy because they feel like something's been taken away, which is their weekend, we then have to solve that problem. How do you do that? How do you make sure they get some of their time off or their personal time, gets created sacredly? There has to be communication around the things that really upset people in the workplace. And that's another way to do it.
Okay, talking about time off and work schedule, I did a lot of research on the 4-day work week.
Yes.
And I, tried to roll it out as a trial basis, right? Something let's try. If you work 4/10s, then you could have Friday off, or you could work, you adjust your schedule, and as long as the work gets done, and and it kind of is a issue with salaried versus hourly. I get that too. And some people absolutely loved and adopted and wanted the idea, and then other people just threw a temper tantrum, for lack of better words, right? And I'm just curious, what are you seeing trending in agencies and PR? I mean, any company that you're working with, is it feasible to do, and do people widely accept it, or is it kind of a controversy, and do people just, adapt to the individual need, or does everybody take Fridays off? I'm just curious because it is seemingly something that keeps coming up in conversation more and more. With all my podcast interviews, not all of them, but a lot of people who talk about these kind of topics, I'm just curious, what are you seeing from an HR perspective?
I see the trend. I see the trend, and I can understand the need for a 4-day work week. Yes, you stretch out your, let's say, Monday through Thursday, get all your work done. The problem with the 4-day work week in an agency setting is, are your clients also on a 4-day work week?
Right.
Is the media on a 4-day work week? Are deadlines only considered as part of the 4-day work week? Are only the deadlines on Monday through Thursday between the hours of 8 and 6? So in an agency setting, it is not as popular because of that. If I've seen it successful, it's because they've staggered that 5th day, that day off. Mm-hmm. So someone gets the Monday, but that account team that person is on must be covering because that client's not off on the Monday. And then the other person on the account team for those clients, for example, could do the Wednesday or could do the Friday. It would only work if you stagger because, again, your clients are not on the same day off.
Right.
The other thing is I've seen companies do a universal day off where they inform the clients in advance, kind of like the week between Christmas and New Year's. Kind of let the clients know we give our staff off. We will be available for emergencies or crisis, or, maybe monitoring the media, monitoring social media to make sure that we're engaging with the communities. But there is some companies have adopted that one day off that's in the middle of the summer or some other random day. And like I said, the communication to the client is necessary because otherwise you're going to have just clients still sending you things. But again, it doesn't turn off the media, or it doesn't turn off the clients. So I would say that if you wanted to create this, you have to stagger. We just wrote this in our blog, actually. You have to stagger that 5th day off so that the accounts the clients that you're servicing do not feel the loss of the person on the team. The other way to make it work is to think about whether or not you have a system in place for acknowledging or somehow paying back the people non-hourly. Let's keep the hourly aside because it's a whole different beast.
A whole different thing. Yep.
Acknowledging them for the potential 50-hour to 60-hour work week, right? So if they were supposed to have that time off, you track it, because if it doesn't work out that way, you might need to go back to your 5 days. The goal is to have people work the same amount of hours, but just have more days that they can kind of be on their personal time, or they can do things like, go for a long weekend. So I'd really think about how that could work, but also summer Fridays, leverage your summer Fridays, leverage summer hours, leverage that one day off in advance, letting your clients know in advance, the week between Christmas and New Year's. Because at the end of the day, the business will only continue to run if the clients pay, and the clients want to pay for work that's being done. So as long as the work is being done and the team is successful in providing that quality work on time, then you can make it work putting in some parameters.
Nice. No, I do like that. I mean, and that's one thing I did say to you. If we take Fridays off, you still at least need to check in once on your email just to make sure that there's no emergencies or,
not a Friday off.
Falling off. I know. So it was like, if you just check once, then okay, great. But I get that too. Like, just save 1 hour for Friday, so that way it's not like completely abandoned ship. But yeah, I mean, and there's arguments to both sides. Like some people really wanted the idea so they could have a long weekend. Other people are like, well, that just interrupts my schedule because I can't do 10-hour shifts on, or 10-hour work days, whatever. And like, well, I don't care. Just get your billable hours done and we'll move on. Like, if you can do that, I don't care if you only work 30 hours, but just keep your billable amount done. But it was like it was a trial basis. And, and then of course the whole hourly situation became a whole nother, thing. And like, trying to elevate people from getting out of the hourly into a salary position, because then they elevate their role. It was supposed to be a motivator instead of a demotivator, but then, sometimes people just cannot be motivated and cannot, I felt like it was kind of a unique situation for each person, whether they liked it or not, or wanted it or not. Although I will tell you, they did like it when it was convenient and they needed it for themselves.
Yes. I mean, whatever fits in the what's in it for me, right? So whatever's in it for me is going to work for me. It might not work for the client. It may not work for the organization, but it works for me. So you always have to think about like what's in it for the employee. We first have to think about how are they going to respond? What is in it for them? And also like what's in it for us? Because if you can't meet them, then it might be difficult. And even if you trialed it, think about it as, if I make this decision, am I walking through a door that closes behind me? Or is it one of those revolving doors that you see in the buildings? If you see the decision as a door you walk through and closes behind you, like you can't change your mind, you need to be very, very clear on what you are doing. Otherwise, you're just going to upset the staff. But think about all decisions around HR that way. Am I walking through a revolving door where I can change my mind? Or am I walking through a closed door? Like I walk through a door and it closes behind me where I cannot change my mind.
Well, yeah, even when you try to make it a revolving door, then sometimes just people take it as absolute and, this is the way of the world.
That revolving door. But you get stuck in there. That's what she's like.
Absolutely. So, no, this has been really good. I mean, just for me, but I'm sure other listeners that have similar issues. I mean, I know that my peer group, we talk about various different things all the time. And a lot of what we talk about is people, people, performance, and certainly profit, but mostly it's about people and processes and making, sure everyone's happy. And although, you learn quickly you can't make everybody happy, and what, one decision you make could impact others in a different way that you hadn't even thought about. I mean, it's definitely a journey that we all go through. And I imagine you've seen so many different changes, even from when you started your business, right? And now what's trending forward. I mean, what are some things that you're seeing that's going to move forward that you see people are starting to maybe adapt or change differently? I mean, I know we've all gone through so many changes through the pandemic and everything, but what do you see in the next, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now?
I see a big trend of conversations that companies thought were private are being made public. So
that's right. Yes, I saw that on social media. Like, I can't remember if it was TikTok or whatever it was, where somebody was getting fired and they outed their boss and it became viral instantly. Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but you're right. You're right.
So that happens all the time. And, whether it makes it to a viral situation or not, I always encourage business owners to identify whatever the conversation is that I'm having right now will be shared in some capacity, whether it's sort of restated through the lens of the employee or shared word for word on a platform. And again, there's privacy rules, whether or not you can be recorded in a state if you don't know, whatever. Those are all considerations. But I always say nothing is going to stop someone from restating what you said in their own way. So totally. That's why it's important. And this has always been the case with me, and it's continuous to be a trend. Be clear, be concise, be upfront with your information, make sure you're making sense, and always restate via text, right? Like via an email, like, thanks for your conversation. Here's what we agreed on. This is what we're going to be doing going forward. I do see this more of a trend because it's viral now, that people are going to feel like they need to publicize the private performance conversations or terminations and things like that. And again, this has been happening for a long time. It's just now it's making it to sort of mainstream media and it's just a little bit more visible to people. So just be aware of that. Whether or not it can happen is not my place. I'm not a law expert on privacy laws, but I'm just saying, as business owners, as managers, as leaders, assume what you're going to say is going to be repeated, whether you can control it or not.
That's right. Yeah, the storytelling that's going to occur could be definitely elaborated or...
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely. No, that's really good advice. Okay, so a couple more things and then we can kind of wrap up here. But I want to know, so you've been doing HR for a while and your favorite thing is people and branding and culture and those types of things. What's your favorite scenario that you've come across within the last 5 years that you just love to tell the story, and without naming names or anything, but what's something that you're super proud of that occurred that you did in your line of work right now?
I have gotten the feedback from someone in an organization that they had no idea what HR was until they left the organization I was in. And they said, like, you have absolutely changed the way HR has been done. And I didn't realize that until I went to other places, multiple other places.
Yeah.
And have never come across someone like you. And so for me personally, that was amazing. And so that's why I went on this journey, because there are so many other HR people that do get that feedback. They make a difference in people's lives and in the company's life itself.
Right.
I just want more people to get that feedback. It's such a thankless job sometimes. Right. And I'm jacked by it. And so maybe that energy does kind of come across in what I do. But to know that I make a difference in people's lives, whether it be, through the one-on-ones, through the coaching, through the development, but just overall, I'm proud to have heard that feedback, because it was a lot. It's a lot to get there. It doesn't take one action. It takes lots of intentional actions and conversations. So while there were many little mini sessions that got me that feedback, I think that one moment of hearing that was like, thank you. It's been worth it for the past almost 3 decades.
Right. No, that's amazing. Okay. So last question, and then I'll, after that, have you kind of plug your stuff. But do you feel like we don't have enough of the next generation interested in getting into your field right now?
I would say there are a lot of people interested in HR because it is people focused. And I actually see that there are people in other fields that touch HR and become more interested in HR. So I would say, though, that there's so much more to HR than what could possibly be known as they are coming up in their studies or in their journey in HR. I started at Guardian Life Insurance. I was like one of 97 people in the HR department, and I was a small cog in this giant machine. And when I went to a smaller organization and I was able to touch every aspect of HR, that is when it clicked for me. So I'd say that as people are wanting to get into HR, because you can work in HR in any industry. As you get into HR, don't just find that one little thing. Like, I love people operations. There's so much more under this HR umbrella. Touch all of it. Touch it all. Become well-rounded. Never lose focus on the people, because that's what it's all about. That's the glue. You are the glue that keeps the people cemented to the company and thus makes that company grow. So I would just encourage them, find out more, learn more, try it out, test it out, and then see where you shine in HR.
That's so fascinating. Being able to understand and find the right people for the company, retain the right people for the company, all of the things. It is definitely a fascinating aspect to those of us who run agencies, because some of us who are smaller, we get to do all the different hats. And so sometimes it spreads it thin, but I do see what you mean by having, various different fields that touch HR and are a part of it in one way or another. And I think that culture is definitely, and just because you're in HR doesn't necessarily mean you're in charge of culture, right? I mean, people have this misnomer, oh, you're in HR, you're in charge of culture. You get to plan the parties and you get to do this and you get to, but really culture, right, is kind of it's a living, breathing thing, whether you want to be in charge of it or not, right?
Absolutely. Culture is, like I said, signal strength. The signal strength of these people create the culture, whether it's a weak signal or a strong signal. All those signals together is your culture.
I love that. That's so good. All right. Well, thank you so very much. I want to give you an opportunity to plug how people can reach out to you if they need your services, which I'm definitely going to be in line for that. It's so good to be able to work with other people who, know and help and can contribute. And I always say, you got to hire people smarter than you in certain areas, right? And so anyway, how can people reach out to you?
So, Ray, they can go on www.hrtransformed.com. We have resources there to show you the 3 things that we do, which is HR outsourcing, coaching and development with business owners and their senior leaders, and as well as corporate training, lots of fun trainings that we do. There's also a Slack community for business owners. Information about that is on our website, and you can reach me directly at ALLYNS@hrtransformed.com.
Excellent, Allyns. Thank you so very much. Any final parting words before we close today?
I would say that when you're entering in a conversation with any employee, think about your style and how you are coming across. Is it just about you, or are you looking to get information from someone else? Stop and listen and think about that for a bit.
I love that. Yep. Listening. Part of communication is also listening. I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And for those of you listening, the very best thing that you can do for Allyns and I is share this with others that I know that need to hear what she had to say today. I definitely took a lot of value from today. And give us a review. Put it out there. Give us a 5-star review if you feel like it's good, worthy content, which I do. And Allyns, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ray.
And for those of you listening, enjoy the marketing journey. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.